Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing good and enjoying your day so far after Scrap and Nadeshot had a solid back and forth after Thieves' early elimination from the Minor 1 tournament to Atlanta FaZe. Seems like Scrappy is locking in for their run going into Madrid Major 1, playing all sorts of stuff over the last couple of days. Less Rocket League, more Call of Duty, more Chals, potentially more scrims for the Los Angeles Thieves guys as well. Maybe taking Nadeshot's advice to heart that if you really want to deliver for this Thieves squad, they have got to put in the time. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Starting here with HyDra, just looking back at the Envy days as an organisation. I do miss Envy as a brand, as a logo. It was great when they were part of the scene. But look, fundamentally, the way that they were approaching things, it wasn't going to last. They were always the organisation that said, yes, we are going to win, we're going to care less about content, and look, it was a good model for some time, but it was not a model that was necessarily going to be so sustainable. I felt like it was inevitable that OpTic and FaZe were going to outlast Envy with the way that things went, and of course in the ends, OpTic were reliant on Envy buying them out, basically, but then because OpTic had the brand that Envy didn't, everything rebranded to OpTic rather than to Envy. So nice to see HyDra back, I will say. I wasn't sure where he went, to be honest, over the last few years, but it's nice to see him back on Twitter at least. And he was talking about the state of the league and what he would change, because back in his day, it was more of an open circuit, right? Saying that without the MLG Pro circuit, competitive Halo and Call of Duty are fragments of what they once were. What is the solution? It's definitely not leagues reserved for just a few teams, but probably the open ecosystem that once flourished and gave every team, pro or am, a chance to shine. I also think this is, like, I've talked a lot about the challenges, the state of things down there, the fact that the age restrictions, I think, are a problem, and I still think that's true. But I do think there is an argument to say that fundamentally the problem is that it's a closed ecosystem with 12 CDL teams and everyone else is fighting in from the outside. Because as it used to be, if me and the boys were good enough, we could go to the open events, pay to enter, turn up to the tournament, fry everyone, and make it into the pro bracket, potentially play the pros, potentially even win the damn event. That was a possibility back in the day. So HyDra was talking a lot about this, that his intention would be to go back to an open ecosystem as much as possible. I would just prefer the system of publishers granting licenses to any operator who proves they can host and execute a good event. Teams were able to decide which events they participate in, and that was a healthy ecosystem, right? So back in the day, that's how it used to be. There would be MLG events, there would be UMG events, there would be Gfinity events, and all sorts of other organisers. ESWC used to run events over there in Paris, among many other things. Advanced Warfare was probably the year where this happens the most. There were all sorts of events happening for all sorts of different organisers. And that's how Counter-Strike runs, and Counter-Strike has its problems, but Counter-Strike has been, I think, in many respects, the gold standard esports for a very long period of time. That's how things work over there in CS. You've got ESL, you've got, PGL, you've got, okay, sure, some of the tournament organisers are coming together now because you've got ESL, FACEIT, everything has kind of come under Esports Engine, even under the same umbrella, but the point still stands that an ecosystem where the pro teams are still the pro teams, and they're invited to play in, the regular season league matches or whatever, even as they used to do back in the day, but the main events are open, other teams can participate. I just miss the days of watching Infinite Warfare when that game first came around, and OpTic, of course, were looking very good. It was the Dynasty team. They just come 8th at the World Championship, top 7, top 8 at the last year's World Championship. They were looking to, obviously win it all in Infinite Warfare, which they eventually did. It was Scump, it was Karma, Formula, and of course, Crim6 as well. And then United came out of nowhere. The Gosu crew, as they were known at the start of the game. They were playing with Drama, I think. They got rid of Drama. They brought in Silly, went to United, and the trio that I'm talking about, of course, Arcetes, Priestahh, and Gunless. Names that nobody had really ever heard of. But all of a sudden, in these online tournaments, in the 2Ks, the 5Ks, they're mixing it up with OpTic. Sometimes they're winning, sometimes they're losing. And everyone's watching thinking, who's this Gunless guy? I've never even heard of him. Like, he's not going to be good when we get to LAN. But, of course, they get to LAN, and they go and make it to the grand finals, right, and win the next tournament after that. Those are the type of stories you used to get of players who are talented, pretty much coming out of nowhere and making their name on the scene. It just doesn't exist anymore the way that things that currently are. So, yeah, I think HyDra is on the money. Is that the direction the COD League will take? I actually think we are moving that way. We are clearly moving away from franchising back to a more open model. This year, hopefully, is a bit of a, I wouldn't say a hybrid exactly, but hopefully this year is a step towards that. And there's other things we need to fix in challenges in that ecosystem as well. But, you know, getting HyDra in charge would be a bit of a step. This is another big deal, though. We've seen a number of individuals who have worked at some of the top developers in recent times just leave. And Greg Reisdorf, 15 years at Sledgehammer Games. He's their multiplayer development director. He's out of there. He's worked on every single Sledgehammer Games title, and he's decided that he's had enough and he's out of the team. It's very interesting to see why. It's not like I could expect every developer to stay working in COD forever, right? It's obviously not going to happen. They'll get other opportunities, want to do other things. But fundamentally, there does seem to be a feeling that the developers don't have as much freedom as they would like to. Activision, Microsoft, or whatever, they run the show. And yeah, we've just seen lots of key individuals at Treyarch, at even Infinity Ward, and certainly now at Sledgehammer, leave over the last few years. And there's big questions as to whether the teams that we have now developing Call of Duty are even capable by any means of creating the Call of Duties that we once had. I think the argument is probably no, they're probably not. And this might be another indication as to why. One positive that we have to mention though on the day is Fringe. So it seems like on Battle Royale, Verdansk or whatever, in BO6 Warzone Season 3, Fringe is going to arrive into the game, and it's going to be a point of interest on the map. So if it's a point of interest on the map, could it potentially imply it's going to come back to multiplayer as well? This is one of the best maps that we've had in the last decade, and you know, one of the best maps in Black Ops 3 for sure. I think my concern always was with Fringe bringing it back was that working it for boots on the grounds is kind of difficult to imagine. If you guys have played Fringe, and I've played a lot of Fringe in my time, that's for sure. Wall running, it was a big thing on this map. The track side over to the right as we look at this image, like working that boots on the grounds might not be great because, you know, there's only a couple of pathways. It's pretty much just a death trap unless you can run on the walls. And basically all of these walls here were very much utilized in competitive play. Certainly this one on the right-hand side. And even getting up into, you know, top grandmas or top barn is difficult with no, like if I can't jump up into this window, I imagine they're going to put a ladder or something there if they do bring it back. But if you don't do that, then it's not possible really to even challenge this guy. So those power positions would become very, very strong. I still think it would work. I will say, I still think it would work for competitive play because fundamentally, the way the map is laid out and designed, the way the power positions counter each other, I still think it would play well. Definitely better, I would say, than some of the maps currently in the game. Would it be perfect? Maybe not, but something to think about anyway. But let's talk about this Nadeshot situation. He, of course, has not been especially pleased at the state of the game. Everyone's playing Marvel Rivals. People are playing other things. You know, Scrappy's playing a bit of Rocket League and all this. And, of course, he was making that point, as we saw in yesterday's video to Nadeshot, saying, look, you might criticize me for what happens during the match with FaZe, but it wasn't necessarily my fault. There were other problems in the game. We know that HyDra had to go back for Christmas a little bit early, maybe because of the visa situation they had to resolve. So Thieves got less practice than they maybe would have liked to going into the new year. But at the end of the day, Nadeshot's perspective was, like, you just got to lock in and deliver the goods because, you know, how can I have faith in you as a player at our organization if your attitude is looking like this? So anyway, Nadeshot was frustrated about the cheaters, maybe frustrated to some degree with Scrappy's situation. I know that Trey was talking about it last night on the show, saying, look, fundamentally, Nadeshot's a serial winner. He's won multiple championships. Technically not a world champion, but he did win COD XP, the first of $1 million tournament. So, you know, Nadeshot knows a thing or two about how to approach things here. But it does seem like Scrappy has had maybe a positive response to this. It's not like Scrap has not been playing COD before, but obviously they're getting on for scrims. Thieves are trying to really lock back in because, yeah, it was a single elimination tournament. They lost to one series of the eventual champions. But if you're a player like Scrap, HyDra, Ghosty, Envoy, Nadeshot, whoever, the coaches, they want to win everything. They're not going to accept anything but the very best on paper. And it seems like Scrap's maybe putting in a bit more time. So here he is playing a 2v2 challenge with Tej, $200 each. He was also playing some high roller money 8s we saw earlier today mentions. So I think there was high roller money 8s going on, lots of cash on the line. There were 3v3 chals happening, such as this one, 3v3 high roller chal, $3,000 on the line with Dashy, TJ, Scrap and those guys getting involved. So, you know, it's good to see that Scrappy is obviously putting in the work. Looks like he's going to be locking it in for, you know, the next couple of weeks of practice, because they've obviously got matches coming up this upcoming weekend. They've got matches coming up the weekend after that. Then they go to Madrid, where, depending on the situation, they may or may not be favourites. I think whatever happens over the next couple of weeks, Ravens are not going to be the favourites. Maybe they could be. I mean, look, they were second at this tournament. They're top of the league right now, Ravens, with 60 points, which is pretty mega, actually, if you think about it. So they're already looking very good in terms of, you know, even World Championship qualification, this type of stuff. Do I expect Ravens to maintain that position? No. Will they ever go into a tournament as the favourites? I don't think so. I think there's going to be at least one of OpTic, FaZe, or Thieves that will be considered stronger at the time and just on paper have more talent. So, you know, FaZe, they might go into the first major as favourites. Maybe OpTic if they have a bounce back couple of weeks. Maybe Thieves, it's possible as well. Maybe it could be Ravens if they just keep slamming everyone, but I think that's somewhat unlikely. But Thieves can get back to that point, but they will be expected to have a great result because there's going to be 6 events this year, and if they want to achieve what they, you know, they're destined to achieve, if you even want to call it that, in terms of the strength of the roster that they've put together, they've got to start out strong right about now. So it looks like Scrap's putting in the time. Obviously, Shotzzy is in that conversation as well. We've talked about some of these MVP discussions. I thought this was, you know, just another classic Shotzzy moment. This is one of those clips you watch and I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of glad that I really don't play that much Call of Duty anymore, because if this happened to me, I might just have to call it a day for the night. So this poor guy is trying to gun Shotzzy, gets stunned, and then he flies through the air and takes him down. It's like, you know what? What am I even meant to do at this point? Did want to share this one clip as well here from Skyz. So Los Angeles Guerrillas, the other counterpart of the Los Angeles Thieves over there in LA, is struggling bad. You know, they're struggling bad. Skyz is struggling. Kismet's been up and down, but obviously that play made rounds, I think it was rounds like 8 technically, against the Minnesota Rocket that they lost in game 5. That was ugly, but it's not like he's been playing exceptionally well. Lynz has been okay. Priestahh has been pretty horrific. And Sky says most of the time we're just losing to ourselves. But yeah, is that good enough reasoning? Like, they're 0-5 so far in the season. They've started out winless. They obviously need to bounce back big time going forwards. I think making a change before the major is not impossible. Making a change after the major right now seems actually pretty likely, I would say. So yeah, I'll share these couple of clips and then we'll talk about one more thing.
No, I got you. Bien. Pull.
Come here. Wow, this guy's dog shit. Oh. I wanted to do the dive. They didn't let me though.
Being sucked, 100% reactions. It's not fun for sure, bro. The only thing that's annoying is like when most of the time we're losing to ourselves. That's like the part that's like, that's the part that like probably like eats you alive the most. Because you can't tell me before the series that we played, like it was not in our hands. We just trolled it.
Simp was snaking blatantly against the Ravens during their series this past weekend. This, of course, was the example. We know, therefore, that Ghosty was not very happy about it and has proposed a ban, a blacklist for this situation. My understanding is, as of recording, this blacklist, initially they said it was going to be a week. That was considered to be near enough the maximum punishment. Last year, the pros came together around about the first major and they decided what the punishments were going to be. I think the punishment was, first offense was, you know, 1 day of no scrims. I think maybe initially the first offense was like no warm-up scrim or something. Maybe they got rid of that in the end because it also affects the other teams that are trying to get practice. Not exactly sure. But the initial plan was that, and then they said, all right, 1 day, and then if there was maybe 3 days, and then if there was a second offense, it was like a week of no scrims, then if it was a third offense, it was like a whole split of no scrims. So that nearly happened to Seattle Surge, by the way, after what happened last year. So this year, they clearly hadn't really discussed it, what they were going to do in this instance, and Simp then snakes, and the pros come together and say, right, what should we do? Lastly, they had some punishments. Ghosty was promoting the 1 week ban, but the other pros kind of said, well, it's first offense, we didn't really agree what the punishment was, so let's just figure it out. My understanding is, as it stands, they are going to get like a 1 day blacklist, right? So there's going to be 1 day this week, might be today, who knows, where Cloud9 are going to get blacklisted from practice. They won't be screwing pro teams. After that, it's going to be back to normal. So, yeah, into your thoughts in the comment section below, because they've still been scrimming. I don't really know if this applies to challenger teams either. It may not do. But if the pros can actually create and enforce a punishment like this, I'll actually be semi-impressed at their competence. Still not competent, but, you know what I'm saying. Very much into your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.